Wednesday, November 10th at 5 p.m. Wednesday, November 10th at 5 p.m. Any objections, gentlemen, as far as you know? Okay, so there's a lot more information for us to research and look into, a lot more for us to discuss with the employees about any potential changes. So we're not ready to move on that this evening. So again, special meeting next Wednesday, the 10th at 5 p.m. With that being said, everything else on the agenda looks okay. Motion to approve. Motion by Holt, second by Black. All in favor say aye. Opposed. Regular meeting minutes from October 19th, 2021. Those that were here, motion to approve. Motion by Honey. Second by Black. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Any abstaining? Abstained by Greg. Thank you. Okay, you have the packet of the bills to be paid as well as the addition to the bills to be paid. Motion to pay the bills. Motion by Holt, second by Greg. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right, citizens' participation this evening. We do have one on the agenda, Miss Diane Ware. Come on up.
Hello. So last year we proposed and did the My Iconic Goat Registry show here in Cuba, Southern Belle Classic. We had an outstanding outcome. We had over 261 entries over the weekend, 93 goats, 7 different states represented, because you can only have one show for each state for the My Iconic Goat Registry. 15 different breeders and 3 judges, one from Missouri, one from Utah, one from Kentucky. And it was absolutely fantastic. I believe some of the people got to actually come down and see them and see the show and so forth from the city, so it was really nice to see people actually interested. And we're asking for permission yet again for the June of 2022. The event date would actually be June 10th and 11th, and then we would clean up on the 12th, which is that Sunday. Last year, the pins, they weren't ready. Came Thursday. I ran out there with the break because electric wasn't in on. I didn't have access to the home pins, and we will use this year. We're anticipating bigger show, so we'd like to use all of the home pins in addition to the goat pins. But we are going to use the smaller stage versus the larger one, less asphalt crossover for the goats, and especially in June when it's 100+ degrees already. Thank you very much. The day of that Friday or Thursday, I think we had to make a few phone calls, but the parking lot was tidied up, the dumpsters were empty, and the compost piles were all cleaned up and so forth. And understanding, fairgrounds and Hood Park wasn't predominantly used since 2019, so that's completely understandable. This year we get some more polls and a little sooner to make things happen.
Is it booked that weekend as far as you know?
Did you talk to Leslie?
And she went ahead and penciled us in
She did, I thought.
the 10th of week.
Is it the same weekend as it was this past
It'll always be the weekend prior to Father's Day.
I make a motion to allow them to use the park also.
Second. Motion by Black, second by Tony. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I appreciate you bringing it to our community. And now we've got between now and June to coordinate with 4-H and TW and get everything you need.
Yeah, you might call a week or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I can gladly do that. That's not a problem.
Whenever you feel like you need to start contacting us for help, just go ahead and do that.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure they knew what to expect last
Yeah.
year with the show, so maybe we can get it right this year. But we will need your insurance and stuff like we did last year.
Absolutely, I'll get the same policy and yes.
Awesome.
Thank you
You
very much,
bet.
everyone.
Alrighty. More for citizens participation, please. please. Come on up, Jim.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Linda Berman. You guys, some of you know me by me. I live just a few blocks from here, down on the corner of Florence and Dork, in one of the lowest parts of the city. And I've got some flooding issues. There's a little dry water creek that runs behind my property. I prepared a statement because it's already starting to happen and starting to bladder. I also have some documents that we can probably get to later. I don't know, if you don't have time for,
You're fine, we would just address your issue, and then, main thing is, people will get with Craig, and, yeah, I'm not sure how up to speed he is on the issue, but see
he's
what
up to speed.
our fixes might look like, and get Craig's opinion on it.
And he was kind enough, and so was Mr. Honey, to come down and see what the problem was. I was here 28 years ago addressing the council, and it's the same reason I'm here tonight. There's a tremendous amount of stormwater that travels through the creek, bringing with it rocks, gravel, sediment, and trash. And since housing has been developed there, I used to be the only house on that street, but now there's 2 duplexes, 2 houses, and there's other property going to be developed there. And Dorr Street has since been paved over, so that's created a lot more impervious surface areas. Previously, the council here agreed to dredge out and maintain the creek every few years, and I offered to give them the property. Jessica was kind enough to look through the old records for me, as I didn't remember signing anything, but it was evidently a verbal agreement. I've spoken with several people over the past 6 or 7 months, and was finally told that they weren't allowed on a private property. The creek really needs dredged out. Over the years, like I said, a lot of it's built up, and then there's some areas where it should be 6 feet wide. It's only maybe 2 feet wide. It overflows its banks, it floods my yard. And then the other problem is, as I spoke earlier about the impervious surface areas, water runs from the ditch across Ford Street, all the way across my yard trying to get to the creek, and then it goes through underneath the bridge. Craig was nice enough to, and Mr. Honey, they were both instrumental in getting ditches on both sides of my property dug out. But the creek is one main concern because it just overflows its banks all the time. All the research I've done shows that local governments typically accept responsibility for preventing and solving drainage and flood control problems. In my case, structural measures may be needed, which could include improving drainage channels, taking erosion and sedimentation control measures, thereby improving the effectiveness of the natural system. And as I said about the ditches that were recently dug, we don't know if they're really going to help until we get a significant amount of rainfall. But that still won't help the creek overflowing its banks and flooding that part of my yard. There is a sewer easement that runs along the creek. I think it's adjacent to the creek. So maybe it's possible to extend that easement to include the creek. If that's not possible, then perhaps the city could adopt the creek. I'm still willing to give it or sell it to the city, if nothing else, because I can't maintain it. I can even sign a waiver of liability. I just really need, that creek really needs dredged out. I mean, right now, I've got pictures, there's a 15-foot by 2.5 feet or something piece of lumber that's washed down from somebody else's property, and it's straddling the creek, and there's no way I can lift that up. I just can't maintain it. Maybe it's possible that the money that you have earmarked for sewer infrastructure could partly be used for this. Just a few ideas.
Sure, no, I thank you for coming, first and foremost, and Craig, I don't have anything to add to that. It sounds like you cut some ditches, but Nothing with the creek at this point.
No, we haven't done private ground.
Understood.
That's where the creek runs through.
It's run through several different
It starts all the way.
pieces of
up
private
to
property.
trailer park.
Uh-uh.
And one-
Meanders all the way through there.
Picks up trash on its way and kind of butts up against the bridge right by her house.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know on that whole creek itself, what would be the best plan of action from a city standpoint?
I don't know, you got a suggestion?
Well, I would have to look at it, but the problem that you would always have to deal with is you can't use public funds to affect private interests. So I understand that she's saying that it's hers, and until I have a chance to look at the information to know what's going on, I don't know that I can answer that question. Other than, that's my initial concern is if it's her property.
I don't mind. Honestly, I don't.
It
You
could
guys
be
can
your
have
property.
it.
And I deal with what is currently the case, so if you can convince the city council that they need to have it for whatever reason, then it becomes public property, that changes my analysis, but as of right now, if it's on her property, that's not something that we can do unless it has a public interest attached to it that is overwhelmingly.
It meanders through several different pieces of private property.
Well, she's talking about the stuff with the sewer and stuff too. I don't know what a private creek would be. I mean, normally you don't own waterways. Nobody owns the Mississippi River. Nobody owns.
Right.
So until I have a better idea of what it is that we're talking about, I don't know that I can answer the question.
It's just a ditch until it rains.
Yes,
Then it becomes a Mississippi River.
it does. There's hundreds of thousands of gallons of water that run through there, but right now, there's a couple little spots that have water in it. Otherwise, most of the year, there's no water in it at all.
Would you mind leaving your photos with Craig? And then he can get with Lance and just kind of take a deeper dive look at this to see if there is, any process that can be started. We'll make sure they get returned to you.
Well, you can have all these, I print them out just for you.
Well,
And then also you can have this is the, spot survey, and you might wanna see this, the area in question, and you can have this also, I have other copies. I believe this is the sewer easement here, which,
They were just less than.
yeah, okay. And that is the sewer easement. And here's the survey stating on that floodplain, and subject to the sewer easement held by the city of Cuba.
So where's the creek?
The creek is right here.
well, if you don't mind, we'll let Lance and Craig take some time to study this stuff, and then we'll reach out. Hopefully by the next meeting, we have something one way or another for you. But the main thing is coming up here and bringing it to our attention, so we greatly appreciate that.
Thank you. That's right.
You're fine. You're fine. Thank you. Okay, anyone else this evening? I see Mr. Branson, you're here. We'll get to you, sir. I didn't know if there was anybody else here this evening for citizens participation. Yes, sir. Go ahead, please state your name for the record.
My name is Joe Monaco. I live at 402 Park.
Yeah.
Well, right back to the same old thing, I guess. Same.
Okay.
Went back in, and first time I come here, didn't know anything about it. I was supposed to operate over there, what I'm supposed to do, blah, blah. I went back in, I started doing a little research on guidelines, what they can do, what they can't do, etc. Did find out, they put these plants in, you're not supposed to be able to smell that skunk smell or anything else. It's supposed to be filtered. Period. And also found out it can cause because they have scientists with the pollen. Pollen will travel 7 miles. When the wind blows, you know that, it's just pollen. But people, if they have asthma, if they have respiratory problems, anything like that, that pollen can cause a problem for them and make it worse. Not me. You can go look it up yourself. Many doctors, they've been doing a study on this, says they come up and they allow these plants to be processed. So that's what we're here for. To see if they are filtering that plant in a proper manner. Okay?
Sure.
And I do know that we're getting all this. It is not supposed to be released. Period. So, what it comes down to, they're supposed to have a charcoal filter system. You got one filtering system, and that catches it, goes into a relay, goes into another filtering system, and so on. And it circulates it back to the filtering systems. It's not supposed to be released into the atmosphere and throughout the neighborhood or throughout the city. Now, we're not the only ones getting this. This is traveling all the way across, goes all the way up to the highway and everything else. So, it's just not us. We're there. I know a lot of folks that's over on the west side, kind of northwest, down in that area. Well, guess what? They're getting it probably a lot worse than what we are, depending on the wind. So that's basically the big concern. Now, I will tell you this. I've never had headaches, period. Never had headaches. Whenever you smell that skunk smell, go out there, I get a headache. And it is definitely coming from that plant. Now, everybody said, well, it can't do nothing to you. I hate to tell you this. It can do something to you. It's not supposed to be released into the atmosphere. That's all our main concern is. Someone needs to make sure they put the plant in, that's fine, I understand. Okay, hey, that's revenue. In 2016, they had something like a $6 billion revenue. By 2025, you're looking at something like $25, $26 billion industry. So if they're going to make this kind of money, all I'm saying is they need to filter these plants accordingly. So we, the people in the areas, do not have to suffer from it. That's all I'm saying. So, I don't know. Another thing is, how big is that plant? How many square feet? You might know.
45,000 probably.
Do they have firewalls?
Joe's here actually, but I want you to take the time you need because I appreciate the information you're giving us, and then I'll allow him to hopefully maybe answer some of your questions.
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
So,
I know they're supposed to have firewalls
right.
with that big of a plant.
I would imagine, I mean, well,
I don't know.
everything they've done to be open is by state statute and standards, so I would imagine, but I'm sure you can probably provide us more detailed information on that.
Yeah, I'm just asking the question.
Sure.
So, that's what I'm asking. I also know that they have had accidents with these plants if they're not kept up and run properly. They can explode. That is a fact. And it has happened. Now, everybody said, well, sure, yeah, no. Well, think about it. What do you got in there? Okay, NHO2. You got the fertilizers and all kinds of fertilizers and everything else. This is what they grow with. But if it's not maintained properly, you can have a problem. And it has happened. So all I'm saying is, we don't know how that they're actually operating. Don't you think the people in this city, in this town, should have that opportunity? To know how they are. That's all we're asking.
Joe, would you like to speak to some of this?
Mayor, I mean, if there's any other comments, maybe I can speak at the end.
Sure.
All at once.
Not a problem.
So that's the only thing I'm here for. Is for that mainly.
Okay.
And that's why I just thrown it up. I just like to have some answers.
Sure. Well, thank you for coming up here this evening.
You're welcome.
Mr. Branson, would you like to come forward as well?
Mrs. Bond will have something to say.
Okay, sure.
It's okay, I'll just
And what was your name, ma'am?
Patricia Monaco.
Okay.
My concern started when we started moved here about a year and a half over on Parkdale, and we smelled this skunk smell, and we thought we had skunks all over the place. We were like, what's going on here? And so it just continued. It wasn't like it was every day. It was just, we go outside and sit, and you had to come in the house and close your windows because this smell was so bad. So we just kept hearing different neighbors talk about it. So I went around the neighborhood and got signatures from all these people that felt the same way that I did about the smell. And they were saying that the kids in school could smell it. Now, I can't testify to that, but I can testify that it is in our neighborhood. And that's what I would like to bring up and see. They say that it can't hurt you, but I asked my doctor, and she said it can cause severe headaches, and it can cause lung problems. So I just want to bring that up. I don't know if somebody needs to investigate that or what, but that's what my doctor told me. And also the lights there, we have to shut our blinds down every night because the lights are they're just so bright, they just shine right in even our bedroom.
Right.
So I just wanted to bring that up, not trying to cause anybody to get all upset with us, but there's a lot of people in our neighborhood that feel the same way. And I just wanted to bring it up and see what you guys can do about it.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Branson, anything you'd like to add?
We talked to you earlier, my wife has filled out a complaint, we both signed it. We've tried to be patient, but it's come to the point that it's unbearable. The smell is so bad, the lights are so bad, and I sent you some pictures.
Yes.
Of your house was, I think Tuesday, Wednesday night.
Yes,
I
sir.
thought I left the lights on the deck on the back side of the house. It was that bright. If they need to get lit up, that's fine, but I don't need it. I don't want my house lit up like in Indianapolis 500. We lived there 40 years last August. And everybody says you can't do anything about it. Well, anybody try to do anything about it? Have you done any research? Put a filter on those lights, put a shield around them. We don't need it in our yard. Okay? And then this new facility that you put up, it looks like a bright sunset.
Oh my.
All night, but last night they did turn them off. It seemed like then when people went to bed, I got up at 2 o'clock, they were back on. So, you know, they're playing cat and mouse or whatever, but it's terribly offensive. And we're like, Pat, we don't want to make anybody mad. We just want some help. Somebody to do something besides tell us we can't do anything. You know, help us. We've been here all our life. Help us. That's all we ask.
Understood. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
In addition to the lights and the smell, there's the noise. The workers yell and scream, and I haven't heard them curse, but our neighbor said that he heard them, not Joe, but another neighbor, and blare their music all over.
And about a motorcycle, somebody over there, employee, and you can hear him all the way down to 19, comes into the house, he's down and out. This just seems to be a problem.
And I realize they need good working conditions, but it just seems like to yell constantly is not necessary.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you guys being as cordial as you are. I understand your frustrations, so we appreciate you coming. With that being said, I did ask Joe to come here tonight. Possibly have some information you can provide you guys, and we'll just have to kind of take it from there. Definitely want to get Lance's input on a few things as well this evening. But Joe, if you'd like to respond to some of that, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Joe DeLea. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Green Farms, Missouri. I'm going to give you a little history of the company. We are licensed by the state of Missouri. The state of Missouri gave us an outdoor grow at that particular location. We have certain rules and regulations that we have to follow per state statute. We built what they gave us a license to build. We had no other option than build an outdoor greenhouse facility at that location. As a smell, I kind of got wind of some of these rumors that are circulating, and some of them that it's a chemical smell. So I want to clear that up right now. The smell is the most prevalent when the plants move into the flowering stage, and that's generally several days a month. We are an agricultural operation. It would be no different if we were growing tobacco. It just happens to be cannabis licensed by the state. The smell is regulated by, depending on the atmospheric conditions, the humidity, and the temperature. We're in the business of growing plants. So the smell that you're smelling is the actual plant. It's not any type of chemicals. Okay? We are regulated on the chemicals that we can use for the plants, and they have to fit within the state's rules of chemicals we can use. None of them are harmful because people are ingesting the cannabis, and all of that is tested prior to it being sold to the dispensaries. So anything we put on the plants is regulated by the state, and none of it's harmful. That's what I can tell you. I'm going to talk about Mr. Branson and Mrs. Branson because we've had some dealings from the beginning with them. As a former mayor's request, we did not develop the east side of our property, which is next to Mr. Branson's house. We left 90 feet of tree cover in place and moved our fence back 90 feet to allow privacy for Mr. Branson. The ex-mayor asked us to do that, and we did that. We purposely, on our east side, got special lights on the east side of the building that shine downward and not toward Mr. Branson's property. That was an additional cost to us, we did it. We installed privacy screening around our facility. Privacy screening that you can't see in for privacy for the neighbors. I personally met with Mr. Branson and his wife, and I told them to call me. They had my phone number whenever they had an issue. I haven't heard from them. This is the first I heard of it when the mayor called me. When I met with Mr. Branson and Mrs. Branson at their house, they said the dead-end street was dark and the gathering point for drugs and alcohol consumption by minors. They said it was too dark. Since we've acquired the property, we've invested nearly $5 million into the facility. We use many of the Cuba contractors. Personally, the ex-mayor asked me to use as many people in Cuba as we could, and we have. We now employ around 40 area residents at the facility. We pay a substantial amount for Cuba utilities. We pay our share, which is fairly substantial. The lights that they're referring to, these are new lights. They've only been in about a week, okay? And they're grow lights. They help the plants grow. And they're only used on cloudy days. Those lights go on sometime between, depending on the atmospheric conditions, they only run from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So 10 p.m., after 10 p.m., they're not going to be on. If 10 p.m., if you come to me and say 10 p.m. is too late, we'll make an adjustment. That's no problem. We've already had, I assume some of the neighbors have contacted the Department of Natural Resources about the smell. They've come paid us a visit, we've met with them. They told us that we are an agricultural operation and they have no authority over us. I'm trying to be honest with you, we've got 4,000 plants growing there. That's a hard smell to quote. There's no filter that's going to try to help that. And that's the reality of the situation. I won't sugarcoat it, but it's hard to, and when those plants go into that flowering stage, they emit a smell.
How about the pollination or pollen spreading or any allergens?
I've never heard that. I mean, some of the things that they were saying, I have never heard before in the business. Okay? And I think sometimes some of the things where the gentleman was talking about, carbon filters, that's for an indoor grow. The firewalls that he was referring to, I assume that's probably an indoor grow. It's not an outdoor cultivation. So there's probably some nuances there. I mean, I came here, because I've been here before, and I want to try to do the right thing by the community. We're involved in the community. We hire a lot of people from get to, you know, shop with the cop, things like that. We want to be involved in the community. And I want the community to be, you know, we want to make it as right as we can. As I told Mr. Branson calling me, these things about people being loud or the motorcycle, it's the first I've heard of that. We've got outside people, what I can tell you, at 5 o'clock every night, everybody leaves. So any of these that I think Mrs. Branson said the neighbors told her, I don't know that, I want to get that first-hand information. But what I can tell you, at 5 o'clock, everybody leaves and goes home. So there's no excessive noises that night. So, we value our relationship with the community of Cuba, and that's why I'm here. And I'm available to appear anytime you have any questions, and I'll take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Joe. Council, do you have any questions for, yes, sir?
Can I ask you a question?
You bet.
Sure.
What kind of filtering system do you have?
The only filtering system that we have in those outdoor tents is, we lower the
Still on
door.
top.
Yes, that's right. Those are intakes. I mean, we roll the doors down, like I said, there's 4,000 plants. You know, the reality of the situation, it's no different if it was a tobacco field, it just emits an odor. And there's no filter that's gonna filter out 4,000 plants. If somebody tells you that, they're not telling you the truth.
But there is some sort of filtration in place on those greenhouses.
On the top, on the intake valves. I mean, when we roll the doors down, but, I mean, that smell is gonna emit from the inside there.
Yes, sir.
You said that you had a previous contact with us, Raymond, once you to our house.
That's right.
In March, and you want to be a good neighbor, and all that stuff. Then you inquired about my mother-in-law's house in Cuba, and if it ever comes for sale, I let you know. And I feel like the only thing you were interested in was buying her house. And I don't have anything to base that on. But other than that, we've had no contact. You did give me your cell phone number. You did say if there was a problem, we'll contact you. About 10 neighbors, we all got together almost a year ago, and we felt like if we came to a group, it was not my place to call you until this fellow jumps up and says you're extremely upset with me for not contacting you about that meeting. It wasn't my place to contact you at all, since he already did.
Well, let me answer your questions twofold. First, the prior mayor brought me to your house. He listened to your concerns, and we addressed those at time. I have no idea about your mother-in-law's house. I never made an offer. We had no interest in that.
You told me once you know the conversation.
Okay, now I said that.
You did, my wife was there.
All right. I don't discount that. All right? I mean, that's really not germane. I gave you my phone number as an option to call me instead of taking everybody's time up. I would try to resolve it. That was the point of it. Truthfully, Mr. Branson, I don't think we're gonna make you happy. I'm not sure anybody's gonna make you happy. But, you know, whatever I can do to try to resolve the issue, we're gonna try.
Can you put some filters on those lights and shields, shining in the light?
Which lights are you talking? Are you talking about the grow?
No, they're the black, they're on a black pole, they're flat, they're up here on the right, and you come over here, so if you got one down on the side of the building, it shines in our house, we have to shut the blinds.
Why don't you just, you have a number, call me tomorrow, we'll get to the facility, I want to see exactly what poles you're talking about. Then,
You don't even know when it's your facility, you don't know about those lights.
Well, Jerry offered to meet with them to look at the lights.
absolutely.
Okay, so.
That's what I'm saying. If you want to show me what lights you're concerned, I'd be more than happy to look at them.
Our house senses over the light on that back door down on the side, it's so bright, it's like a train light. And then the two of them in front, they shine, I've got to go in the evening, so we can even watch TV. Did you see the picture that I took this week and sent to Mr. Weathers?
Yes, I sent Joe those two pictures.
Yeah.
Also, we got their lights on back on the deck, and I come to find out it was a glow from your back there.
I think the lights that you're talking about are from the tents to the glow lights. Those are the ones that go on at 6 in the morning and they go off at 10 at night on Friday nights. Those are the ones.
That was 10:31 when we took those pictures.
10:27 at night.
Would it be possible for you gentlemen to meet and point out these poles?
Yeah, I'm more than willing. You come over and show me which lights that you're talking about. Okay, you call me, we'll go, you come over to the facility, show me the lights you're talking about, and we'll.
You say you don't think anything would make me happy. You don't know me.
You're right, I
You
don't.
don't know me. I'm extremely easy to get along with.
Well, but again, we all got to try to get to some sort of middle ground. That's why we're here this evening. Hopefully, you guys can at least start with the lights tomorrow and see if there's a solution there. Lance, do you have anything you'd like to add to any of this as far as legal counsel goes?
You know, you guys have asked me to take a look at nuisance ordinances. I've started that, but I haven't finished yet.
Okay. Well, let's get these gentlemen together tomorrow for the lights. Yes, ma'am.
I just wondered did the city agree to all the state regulations? The city also agreed to all those regulations?
Right, so there's a lot of hoops and bounds that any marijuana cultivation operation has to go through, and it's all approved through the Department of Health and Senior Services, right? Which is ran obviously by the state. So anything that they had to do in our community was more along the lines of, you know, being away from schools and churches and daycares and things of that sort. They've met all of the criteria to be in our municipality that the state had laid out for them. And then anything else as far as the license to operate, the permits to operate, the inspections, the filtration, the this, that, the other. I don't know how many times Joe the state came down to check you guys out before you were in operation and how frequently they continue to do that, but I know it's probably pretty strict.
The state they have inspected us numerous times. We're in compliance with any state rules. They have the ability to look at our cameras at any time they want. They have total oversight of our facility.
Mr. Mayor, I can also contribute. This was passed by a constitutional amendment. At the time that it was passed, the state agency that is going to oversee it didn't have any regulations for us to even look at when it was initially passed. Those were all done subsequent to its passing. Essentially, it's a state program. Because everything is laid out in the Constitution, it's more powerful than if it was just a statute, right? So we have very little control over any regulation for any cannabis-related business. It's all regulated by the state. We have very, very little say, other than if we're trying to do something about zoning, and that part is already passed. And I think my understanding was that Green Farms is in the industrial park, so it's in a place that was already zoned for industrial use. I think that means that we couldn't regulate it much more than that. If it had been, you know, zoned residential, it may have been a different tradition.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry,
Sure.
but I don't think any of us, especially the people that I got to sign the petition, were trying to close the plant down. I don't think anybody was saying that, they wanted to get rid of it. I think their main concern was just that skunk smell. That's all I was wanting to bring up, is that everybody in our neighborhood was all complaining about that. So it wasn't like we were all saying, well, let's all get together and get rid of these people. We weren't trying that at all.
Sure. Just mainly smell and lights.
Right.
I think is the main issues, so.
Actually, another question. On those towers, they have to come down, that's a lot of leases from the tower, correct? No.
The air comes in the tower.
And
The air from the outside pulls in.
It pulled in, it's okay, and how does it release out?
So the air circulates within the tunnel, but some of it's gonna escape. I mean, that's just the reality of it. You know, if somebody opens the door, you're gonna get an air smell. I mean, I truthfully, I don't wanna tell you something that's not true. So, yeah, there's no filter that's gonna fix this particular issue. We've tried different strains of cannabis, and the strain that we're using now, we believe probably has the lowest smell that we can have. It's atmospheric, because some days, you know, if I pull up to the gate, I'll smell it, and then other days I don't smell anything. So sometimes it's the humidity. What I can tell you is when the plants get toward the end of their life cycle, when they're really growing and blooming, Ask gentlemen when you get the smell. And I can tell you, like, this morning I pulled up, I smelled it, I left this evening, there was no smell. Those plants will be, they're gonna be harvested next week, so you probably won't smell anything for the next 3 months. And then there'll be a week where you smell something.
Do that whenever it's nice and warm out there.
Come by for a tour. Come by, I'll give you a tour.
Very good. Well, Joe, I appreciate you coming. I know your answers don't fix everything. Mr. Granson, hopefully you guys can look at some lights. Yes, sir.
And we have it on record, one time he will meet you in the morning, so we can discuss this, before you have a happy ending.
Sure, what, did you guys pick time?
What time's good for you, Mr. President?
9 o'clock's fine. Get up early.
Can we do it around 10? I got a meeting at 9.
There you go.
If you just come to the gate at 10 o'clock, and I'll tell security you're coming, they'll let you know. Okay?
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, council. Is there any questions from the council? Sorry. Thank you. All right. Any other citizens' participation this evening? Hearing none. Water committee recommendations. Does our water committee meeting, our water committee met? I know they had a meeting. Are there any recommendations needed to be heard from the water committee, Kevin?
We do, Cody. Like I said, we've had a couple of meetings now. Our recommendations are going to be to have Marshall move on contract with the Meadows subdivision looping project for the increasing of the fire protection at the Meadows. Approximately cost is $300,000 needed. We'd like to have motion to proceed with that. We have 2 recommendations here. One both, one at a time.
We can begin with that first one. Is Cameron here this evening? No, he's not. Craig. Obviously, this was discussed a few different times, but the looping out at the Meadows is going to be very, very important to maintain adequate pressure, correct?
Yes.
For fire and for residential?
Yes.
Due to the fact that we're having new industry coming to town and we're using more of that system.
All 3 of these recommendations come out the hydraulic study. We found the weakest link where we get good water pressure there, low hydro. So the first one was the biggest hit, and there's 2 more that are real close on the other.
Okay, well, the first one, the Meadows looping, that was something, Kevin, that you're looking to go ahead and begin action on immediately as well as funding that project, correct? So is that the recommendation to the council?
That's the recommendation to the
Okay.
council.
Is there a motion on this first looping project for the Meadows area?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Motion by Copeland to move forward with this Meadows looping project. Is there a second? Second by Black. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We have one more recommendation.
All right.
All right, let me get my glasses here. We recommend that Archer moves forward under the contract with an engineer service only for the Maple Northwood looping of Monroe Myrtle looping.
So that's 2 different areas you're looking to loop
Yes.
ultimately?
Yes.
2 areas, yes.
Maple Shade Northwood Loop, is that the undeveloped property, sort of Canmore Farm that wraps around by that street?
Yes,
Is
part of
that
that
what
is,
they lie?
yes, and we'll look back 66. They can get bigger, it says there, but basically we're gonna loop, there's like 4 inch in cleaner down there, it needs to be 6 inch. That was the initial start, and then probably the design stage, we'll loop on around there too.
Now, Cody, this got possibility of some grants out there that we can go after for
You're
that.
not asking for any funding other than just allowing for Archer to start
Yes,
engineering and pulling permits?
yes, that's it.
About what type of cost would we be looking at there, do you think, Craig?
I would say $25,000-$30,000
Per project?
per project.
Because we also have Monroe and Myrtle on here as
Yes.
well.
Mhm.
These would obviously be future funded projects for completion of those projects, right, Kevin? You're not asking for those to be funded now?
No,
You just the funds for the engineering to get started, correct?
yes,
Okay. So is that your recommendation to the council, Kevin?
yes.
Do you have a motion for the council?
Make motion to allow Archer to move forward under the contract with his engineer looping project with Mercedes and Northwood looping.
Okay.
Another road and Myrtle, ain't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, motion by Copeland. Second by Holt. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Water Committee. All right, Mr. Stiles, thank you for coming this evening. Thank you for coming, Jimmy. So you might remember from the last meeting, I mentioned that I wanted to have the natural gas guys come and just give us a brief general overview. I know Kevin can provide us a dissertation on natural gas and futures and all of those things. But we know what we ran into last year, just kind of get a broad overview of some of the things you've done for the city so far, what the futures are looking like. Obviously, things can happen that are unforeseen, but just kind of fill us in on what we might expect over these next few months.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the City Council for the invitation to be here. Yeah, it's been February. February is the gift that just keeps on giving. I mean, it has tied up a lot of my time all during the summer and into the fall. Not with clients of mine, but with people or companies I've spoken with over the past few years. I've seen horrendous, there's a horror story every time I get a phone call, $5 million, $6 million bills, just, it just runs the gamut of just true horror stories. We fared relatively well, could have done better, but the lasting effect of what happened in February is going to be felt this winter, and it's being felt right now. In February of 2021, the gas market started out at $2.50 and ended the month at $2.50, but there's that week to 10 day period where the highest we paid was $65, but the highest panhandle customers on the panhandle were paying, which is where we used to source our gas from, was $225. Right now, the natural gas market, we peaked in early October at close to it was $6.40 and change per MMBTU, and then 10 days later we were down at $4.80 per MMBTU. We do not have anything priced as of yet for the winter, which the December, January, February time period is when we're going to use 60% of our gas. And just by having those 3 months priced, you will eliminate the majority of your risk for the year. Now, I almost started pricing when the market broke to $4.80 after we were just at $6.40. And to be honest with you, I really thought that I could squeeze some more out at the time. As long as in the 20 years that I've been managing energy, whenever I see a big move like this in price to the upside in the month of October and November, it doesn't end well for the bulls or for the market. The market always corrects and corrects hard. And I guess looking back, the $1.60 correction was probably big enough. But as you look out and transition into the cash markets, yesterday values in West Texas fell back over $1 just because one pipeline was doing maintenance. So when you look at the relationship between the futures and the cash markets, there's a huge disconnect going on right now. One day last week, within the course of just a little over 24 hours, it was actually in 2 trading sessions, the market had a swing of 80 cents. Why? Who knows? I guess it could. All the news, all the news services were saying, well, there was a change in the weather forecast. We've gotten to the point to where a nickel problem causes a 50-cent move. It's completely irrational. It's very volatile in here right now. Now, as for pricing going forward, I would love to say that we have 100% of our needs booked in for those 3 months. But even in February, for instance, of this past year, if we would have had 100% of our needs booked, and you book your needs on the terminologies in ratable basis. So 28 days in a month, and we used 34,000 last February, 34,864. Then you'd be looking at, what, roughly 1,300 per day? Well, during the first part of the month, we were only using like 1,100, and then end of the month, we were only using like 800 a day. It was that window in between where we were using 2,000 a day, and that's where the spike occurs. So I plan to be heavily committed for those 3 months with the idea that we're probably going to have to sell gas back for the balancing requirements on the pipeline. But the way that I look at it is if we have a $5 cost, we have to sell something back at $4, our risk is $1 on the difference, as opposed to an upside of, well, last year we go from $2.50 to 65 in the course of 2 or 3 days. So I guess I would rather just know that we're going to be overcommitted and overbooked, and knowing that in reality we're probably going to have to discount some of it to get rid of it. To me, for those 3 months, that's just the best way to approach the situation. Now, with regards to pricing, November pricing was close to $6. And I do think that's going to be a pattern that's going to be ongoing, is as you price your index gas for the month, you're going to see spikes, which is always priced in the last week of the month. And so I want to get the pricing done towards the middle of the month for those 3 months. And I'm tempted to say that, and I've never been a fan of a strip, which a strip is, if you do a 12-month strip, a calendar, let's say 2022, then you're taking equal quantities of gas for every month of the year, and all the different prices that you're paying are just averaged for the month. So if we did a 13-month strip going forward, we'd be looking at, and these were values as of this morning, the market today, but I'm confident that they will be back to this price level relatively soon. We'd be looking at a strip of $4.17, which is a lot better than $6 on the front end. Now, if you want to extend it into 2023, then we can lock in values a little over $3. $3.33 as of this morning. If you believe everything you read with regards to the environmental, to the ESG people, I don't know, 10 years from now, we're going to need natural gas, and I think we probably will. 20 years, who knows? So at some point, you don't want to get too far committed, because it will eventually end up being worthless. If we all start driving electric cars, we don't need crude oil. And so when does crude oil quit being worth $85 and become worth $15? If we do go out and extend coverage for a couple of years, we're going to know our maximum risk. And I'm not necessarily advocating that we cover needs for 25 months a year right now. Our lowest usage month is about 7,500. So I guess I would say, okay, we'll do a strip for 7,500 for a 13-month time period or a 25-month time period. And then we will layer in the additional needs for the December, January, and February time period. I know I've said a lot. I know it's not really riveting. Any questions right now, or comments, or concerns?
I think my main question and concern was, if you're already feeling like we're probably going to get outrageous prices.
The potential is there just because people are scared. There's a lot of money chasing this market in here right now. There's a lot of money sitting on the sidelines. There's trillions of dollars sitting in the banks, courtesy of the Federal Reserve. And natural gas is not a very big, huge market. And so anytime you have an influx of billions of dollars, it moves the market. There is a possibility it can happen. It can happen, but I have never seen back-to-back winners. One of the things that happened in 2020, the company that I do some business with, they were taken over by private equity, and in their financial models, they had modeled the worst-case scenario of gas prices being $50. And the highest I had ever seen Panhandle in 20 years was $33, and it was for one day. Well, this year it was $225, and it was for a 4 or 5 day period. So any economic model, worst case, was just completely blown out of the water this past February. Now, looking back, the weather conditions here, I would say, happen every 10 years. The last time we had a similar storm was 2011. I remember we had just started serving GB again, and they were set to start service on February 1, and we were doing it under a curtailment arrangement. And the very first day they started service, I had to call up Scott and say, hey, we're not, we can't go because, we just received a 30-inch snow and it was going to be minus 20 below. So 10-year, the events that happened in Texas, I would have to say is a 30-year weather event. So I don't think that if it's a normal winter, it's not a problem, especially for these price levels. If it's an above normal winter, then everybody's going to be cussing that, well, why did you buy gas at $5 when we're selling it back at $3? It is going to have to be, we'll know with the first weather event. In my experience with commodity markets, so it says the first event is normally the big one, meaning for prices. It might not be the big one for the weather itself, but prices will react the most. And it to me, people go, well, why? And I've always explained the phenomenon that it's just one of those things. The more you hear of something, the more it becomes news, the less of an impact it has. And so, yeah, the possibility is there. Do I think it'll happen? No. Do I want to be priced? Yes, just because I don't like $450,000 gas bills.
Sure, yeah, we don't either.
And, and I wish that there was some way that you could, and driving over here, I was thinking, there might be something that we can do with regards to balancing on, we get our gas off routes. And I might be able to work something out with the present supplier who's Direct Energy on balancing excess supply. I don't know, but I want to float that by here in the next day or two. Okay. But if we do go ahead and lock some gas from where we have locked in or from where we price the stuff to the consumer, then we would have our operating margin pretty well committed. We by city council ordinance, we tack on $7 as our operating, and if we can get gas secured, especially in 2023 for the 330, and we would still be below our present day pricing. So the market's caught a lot of fanfare, and the market is a lot higher. At the end of February, we were $2.50, and today gas was, Rex was $5, so it's double. But that's well off the highs of where it was in the beginning of October. And but yet by employing the strip, it's not near as bad as it was. I mean, we're still going to have elevated prices for the December, January, and February, but not as bad as what you would. Not if you read the papers, it's not going to be as bad as the predictions.
Well, very good. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I kind of like, we've been going year by year. I'd like to, just something for the natural gas committee to think about. I'd like to kind of see if we can lock in by 2 years. I've heard 3 years, we got to think of, no, that third year, it could go or lose. But as long as the people know what they're paying.
Right, and whenever I go to municipal, the person I like to talk to the most, or at the beginning, is the person at the window. Because if they're happy, if they're not getting a lot of complaints, then you're doing okay. And we have been steady with our consumer pricing for years. I mean, we didn't raise it for, 6, 7 years? Lenny, you would know better. Yeah, it was a long time. Now, natural gas prices were in a bear market. They were declining to steady. And they will be there again at some point. If you look out for it, I mean, you can go and price out 10 years for roughly the same thing.
But the prediction of natural gas, gasoline is gonna go up and up right now. So I'm saying this, if we lock in for 2 years.
Yeah, but my concern is problems always seem to take longer to work out.
I see what you're saying.
And so the $3 gas could easily become $4.50 or $5. Previously, the market was coming down, and so if you would have, whatever you would have paid would have been too high. 12 months down the road, 14 months down the road. In this situation, I think that there's a greater chance that $3 gas becomes $4 gas, or $4.50 gas, and the front end of the market goes from $5.50 to maybe $4. $4 just seems to be a point of equilibrium right now. And today, the big decline in West Texas values, it stopped at $3.95. It did this about a month ago too, and it stopped at $3.95, or just shy of $4. So yeah, I am not opposed to. Our smallest consuming month is roughly 7,500. So if we did a strip over this time period for 7,500, we wouldn't be buying any gas in probably the month of June, July, and August, our lowest usage months. And we would still have to buy incremental supplies for the winter months. We would still have to buy incremental supplies, well, for any months other than the middle of the summer. And we would have to buy incremental gas if we do have an increase in consumption, either through residential or through a commercial or industrial. Hopefully it would be great if somebody would come back in as a big user like GP was.
Well, we should have locked in the summertime. 2 years. We should have went 2 years in
Well,
summer, when the price was,
what's got the market here, and I do believe that financial situation of just excess liquidity. I grew up in agriculture, and land prices have doubled here in just no time at all, but the revenue is still the same. And it's all a function of just there's lots of money out there. And in commodity markets, I've said for years and years and years, to have a bull market in anything, you have to have two things present. You have to have a sense of urgency. People have to want to buy it today because they know it's going to be higher tomorrow. And you have to have new money coming in. Well, right now, we have both. Now, it will play itself out. And I do believe that what we saw in the first part of October, where the market did spike up to $6.50, was probably the high, absence of any, severe weather, even mild weather, even a mild storm. I doubt it can go back to that level. That's just my own personal opinion. Could easily be wrong. But to get here, I think money was a huge factor, but there's also 2 or 3 other items. Like, for instance, this past summer, all the projections were based on the U.S. producing 93 billion cubic feet a day. Exports were running 11 in CNG and about 7 to Mexico, so about 18 BCF a day were going in exports, which was up from 14 over the last few years. So exports have been growing. And then, who would have thought that the wind wasn't going to blow in July? There was a huge amount of gas that went into electrical generation. And our production, instead of being 93 BCF, was only 91.5 BCF. So if you just take that shortfall of 1.5 BCF a day, times the number of days in the storage season, we would be well above the 5-year averages for storage. We would be rivaling last year's number, just if we had that 1.5 BCF. Now production is around 94, so we have brought some new wells on, and that's the good thing about high prices is you will get new production. So it wasn't really one item, it was just a combination of several items that took 1 billion BCF off here and 1 billion BCF there and 2 billion there. That's gotten us to this point, plus the euphoria. You can't pick up a business newspaper or, you know, go onto the web and go to a business site and net gas not be in the headlines, or energy prices not be in the headlines between Europe and China and the US. I mean, we are well supplied and we'll stay well supplied. Exports, yes, I do believe that they're going to grow. But we're at export capacity right now with our present plan. So we can't ship any more out. And so people can talk it, but it's not a market factor because it's, you know, we're flowing at the max rate on the Bible. And so, I mean, it's if we just normalize market conditions, then yes, I do believe things.
How about the transportation costs? I think we pay 2 of them, don't we, to get to us? Or is it pretty stable, or are they costing higher or not on transportation?
We're just paying one transportation cost.
We don't pay 2 pipelines, Joe?
Well, we used to pay, when we took gas off Panhandle Eastern Pipeline, we would pay transportation charges on Panhandle. And then pay transportation charges on no gas. Now we just pay transportation charges on no gas because we're not sourcing off Panhandle. We're sourcing off the Rockies Express, which has a direct connect into MoGas. And so the Rockies Connect trades at a delivered quote, which is it's like 10 cents above Panhandle. Today it was 14 cents. Some days it's a slight discount. Some days it's most of the time it's a small premium. Let's say 5 to 15 cents. The transportation on Panhandle was costing us 40 cents. So we're already, I would say that we're averaging about 25 cents per MMBTU to our benefit by taking gas off racks. Last February, it really was to our benefit just because the highest rec stop was $65 on the same day Panhandle was at $2.25. And Rockies, it flows both ways. So if gas is cheaper in the west, you can haul gas from the west. If gas is cheaper in the east and in the Appalachians, or Marcellus or Utica Shale, you can bring it back from the east. And so that's why I used to detest the Rockies because all the promises it made, it never fulfilled. But the last 3 years, I love the Rockies. Because it just it works for us.
Well, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Keep it here, buddy. See what you
Keep
think.
doing what you're doing. I mean, you don't really need much bargain, but
well,
I know you bring us different things, like whenever we did stop taking it off the Panhandle and what the gas for the transportation costs, like you just described. I remember that about a year ago or however long it was, and you know, that was something you brought to our attention that just made sense for us to do, and we did it. So we lean on you pretty hard for those type of things. And
I appreciate that. I really value your all's business. I think the city of Cuba is, the town I grew up in is about the same size, and it used to be a really nice little town, but it's a dump anymore. It's just, you know, it's, you all are progressive. I mean, you come into town, it's nice and clean, and I like the city of Cuba. But I always want to try to do better. And, you know, like I said, I'll be the first to admit that we could have done better in February.
Could have done a lot worse too, though.
We could have. The guys down the pipe didn't do so well, but yeah, I mean, it's just, and I mean, what's the status of, last year I was under the impression that one of the larger industrials was on the way out. And another thing that I learned, not only from here, but from just other clients, in those extreme events like February, when people tell you that, yeah, our plant isn't going to be operating, that just means that there are going to be people there. It means that they're still going to be burning gas. keeping the place warm, keeping tanks warm, it's basically running at a hot idle. And, but just, so there is a consumption, and during those really cold days, that consumption is much bigger than what you think. Sure. So it's live and learn, and I hope we don't have to go through that in a long time.
Yeah, same here.
So.
Well, thank you, sir.
All right, any questions or anything?
Questions, council?
Thank you.
Jimmy, you got anything?
Warren?
Did not. Oh, thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Keep it asshole.
Yep.
Did you find any parts and pieces to expand?
That's gonna be a real problem. But yes, I did find one. Yes, five of them.
Meters and pipe?
Meters I'm having issue with, and I'm working on that as we speak. As far as our products, we just can't get it right now. It's absolutely terrible.
That's everything, man. It's crazy. Crazy out there. Ronnie.
Only one thing I got for you guys is siren tests. All worked, including the airport. We thought the airport got hit by lightning, but it's working now. I'm still going to have a company come down to take a look at it. I'm having a hard time to get them to contact the company and see what we've been going. It's rough. So I'll call every week and try and get them to come down. So, but that's all I have for you guys.
Thanks, Ronnie.
Get with Craig and Chris on your lights, and we'll add this to the Wednesday's agenda.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
Craig, salt building foundation bids.
I think this lane has a.
Okay. We have two different bids, different types of bids for the salt building. First one's going to be the salt building foundation bids, followed by the salt building flatwork bids. Correct. That's, yeah, you good. Okay, so beginning with the salt building foundation bids. Foundation?
Oh, he's called foundations, my bad. Go ahead.
Oh, he's called Hancock Foundations, got it.
But it really is foundation.
Okay, so this first bid is from Hancock Foundations, and this is for the foundation bid. Okay, Hancock Foundations and Flatwork. I'm assuming all these bids are probably going to match 160 foot of 12-inch thick, 9-foot tall wall, including excavation, footing, rebar, concrete. $37,500 from Hancock Foundations and Flatwork. $37,500. Next one for the foundation bid is from Baus Contracting. I believe that's what that says. Trade Baus Contracting? Baus Contracting. Okay. Concrete work per Archer Elgin Plains. The total bid on the project is $40,820. $40,820. That is Baus Contracting. And the third bid for the foundation is from Stubblefield Construction. Salt building foundation bid, $47,420. $47,420.
Motion to accept the bid from Hancock Foundations.
Okay, motion by Black, second by Tony to accept the first bid from Hancock Foundations for the sum of $37,500. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you, council. Get these put back together. Remember that one time we did those, that extra stuff we call it? I had like 50 of these things everywhere. Surplus bids. Oh, it was a mess. Okay, salt building flatwork bids. First one is from Hancock Foundations. $25,800. $25,800 from Hancock Foundations. Second one is from Bowes Contracting. $24,750. $24,750. Third one is from Stubblefield Construction. $38,920. $38,920. And the fourth bid is from Cowling and Garbo Concrete. And it is for $26,496. $26,496. Those are all the bids for the salt building flat work. We have a motion, council. I'm going to run through them again.
I can't remember them. If you're going with the lowest bid, it was Best Contracting for $24,750. And then Hancock was $25,800, Calgary was $26,496, and Stubblefield was $38,920.
Motion for Bowes. Okay, motion by Granite for Bowes Contracting.
Second.
Second by Black. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That takes care of the foundation bids and the flat work bids. What else do you have for us tonight, Craig?
First item here, final clean call, they're gonna do the, Christmas parade December 4th at 9 o'clock. We'll start around East Office, the newspaper area, and we'll run down to Smith Street and into Breckland. Starts at 5, and they're asking to shut down the street, which I talked to MoDOT on 19 to do with that. East 66 is our driving service, west is MoDOT's to do with that, so we're just asking them to shut down for a few hours.
Okay, Christmas parade from East Office down to Smith Street.
We actually pay for off Rob's area.
Okay.
They said, their chambers, excuse me, will stay in the wagon. That's what they said.
Molly thought it was gonna be put up, they're gonna fix smaller this year, so.
And maybe, I know that's what they want.
Do you know when they're gonna start that?
I would trust Molly.
That general area.
Right.
You okay with that, Rob, for parking lots?
You start breaking every day down there for a while here.
Okay. Motion to allow the proper closures, council. Motion by Grady, second by Holt. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll have a parade.
The only item I had, we got quite a bit of money left in the tree trimming budget. Would like to do about 4 more small areas here, get the bid out. Go through a procedure like we do, show
Absolutely. You got, that's music to my ears. Quite a bit of money left in tree trimming so we can hit some of these other areas that are causing these flash outages.
You're very good. We're gonna spend that out, so good.
I got a question, and I can't remember where it was when I was traveling through the day, but we've got catalpa trees planted in the median somewhere, and they're like 20 feet tall right now.
No.
That'd be 40 in 3
Sure,
years.
that's the one thing.
I'll figure out how to.
Figure out what we're in.
We've taken a lot of trees out last couple of years trying to get power lines.
Do your normal bid meeting, so where everybody knows the specs and they can bid on separate jobs and like we normally do.
We've got 2 more areas to walk, and we'll get those from paper.
Very good.
See if we get some bids.
Need a motion for that? Lance?
Make a motion for Craig off bids.
Motion by Black, second by Gray. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And on electric here, we got a lot of this side down, cleaned out. Hopefully we get some transformers at 35 we had ordered next month or so. So hopefully, December, January, we start switching that 70 if you went outside of town.
Absolutely. Might think about ordering another round of 35 or 40 of them things. Kind of start looking at the lead time and the costs, maybe bring that to us in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, we'll look into a few more over the next
Sure.
area. And on our sewer stuff, talked to Art Charlotte today. He's shooting for the end of the week. We should have our stacks together. We're getting this lining done, clear in place stuff.
Okay.
So we can get that up to bid, and next month we've got somebody chosen to get started on town.
Very good.
We only have two small areas of repair work we're looking at.
Good. In the meantime, start thinking about what we tackle next year.
Yes. And that's all I have to say.
Anything for Craig?
I do.
Yes, sir.
This Christmas parade, are they gonna have Santa Claus, there handing presents out after the parade or not, or?
I don't know any logistics of it.
Not the real.
I think it's not.
I would contact
I gotta know what Santa's gonna be.
I think if we could follow a strategy like we did for the July parade, where the bulk of anything that's given away is given out during the parade route, because I think the plan is this year is everybody's gonna gather and they're gonna light the tree and they're gonna be done, because in years past, they do the thing, you go through the tree lighting and everybody's gone. So they're gonna try, if there's gonna be, again, I owe you a phone call, so I have an idea for you about that. So, but that's their plan, is that the parade's gonna end, they're gonna light the tree as soon as the parade ends, that way there's more people there to see that.
So should Rob put in the paper or not that Santa will be there this year?
Oh, we got plenty of time.
Okay.
I mean, I got in the paper this week that the parade's scheduled.
All good.
I knew there'd be way more details.
Figure out all the fine
Because
details.
they may decide to have the fire come say, and who knows what else.
I think there's a lot of details that are.
Yeah.
Anything else, Kev? Council? Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, guys.
Please, Chief.
I don't really have a whole lot, I only have one issue, but I just wanted to let you know first before I get to that. Cameron was there this evening for the nuisance complaints. I know he's been working on stuff like that, we forgot to remove this, so I don't have to do that to tell you, but he.
Update us at the next one.
Yeah, will do. The other issue is just to inform you that, and we've been talking with Lance, is with animal control, we did pick up a dog that in town, that has been deemed a dangerous animal. The owner of the dog, Arthur Curtis, I don't know why I said that, had agreed previously, when it was deemed dangerous, to move downtown. They had information a couple months ago, they had to move it back into town. We've been, animal control's been getting photos from neighbors and stuff that's in his backyard. And, we were getting ready to move forward when, they got a call, I'm not sure what the, basis of the call was, other than just loose. I don't think he was chasing anybody.
No.
But the dog was loose and it is microchipped, and it was the dog that was deemed dangerous and not to be back according to our ordinances. And just let me know, if there's anything further with that you guys want to do to move forward with our, what's on our ordinance here that Lance has.
The dog has been taken in and is being held. As I read our ordinance, I believe that the animal is supposed to be destroyed. Section 515, subparagraph 4, penalty for non-compliance. There's a criminal penalty, so he's supposed to get a ticket. He could be subject to up to 90 days in jail and a fine of up to $500. But then it goes on to say, any animal found as aforesaid to be a dangerous animal seized and impounded by the city animal control officer until the owner therefore complies with provisions of this section. Written notice of this seizure shall be given to the owner. We've done all of that. If the owner fails to comply with the provision of this section within 10 days of receipt of written notice, then the animal shall be destroyed. That's our written notice. That was from February of 2020. He now knows that there's no question that he knew that it was a dangerous animal. He signed that document, and he intentionally brought the animal back inside the city.
So it's currently in possession of animal control
Correct.
after it got loose. So,
And the animal wasn't, is microchipped and stuff like that, so they did able to show that it's the same dog.
sure. Yeah, I mean, brief history that I can remember is we had 2 dangerous animal hearings on this same dog. The first one, you know, we offered the gentleman a warning and get your fence fixed and keep your dog in and don't let it happen again. Unfortunately, there was a second incident, and which led to a second dangerous animal hearing, where I believe there was actually a young man that was hurt by the dog. That's whenever the council had moved to basically have the dog evicted from city limits under the circumstances that Lance just kind of reminded us of. However, since then, they brought the dog back into town, and then it got loose again, and now it's in possession of animal control. So I guess the next step is to move forward with policy and ordinance.
Just to remind you, at the time that we had the dangerous animal hearing, the second one where someone was injured, the board voted at that meeting to remove the animal, not to have it euthanized. As I read the ordinance, it says shall, it doesn't say may. I don't like killing dogs either, but.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, council, it's up to you, take it to a vote if you want to allow animal control to move forward with euthanization or try relocation another time, or what you want to do, but, I mean, obviously, the gentleman signed the documents knowing what the rules were and was given multiple chances, so I don't know if there needs to be a council decision on anything, or just follow protocol.
I don't think you can release the dog back to him, and honestly, I don't think you want to incur the liability of offering the dog to someone else.
That
Sure.
could cause trouble again.
Yeah, it's already hurt someone.
We can't adopt a dog out that's been born.
No,
Is there a sanctuary somewhere that would take them?
No, I wish.
I say we could call.
As I recall, when Mr. Arthur was here on the first one, kind of made an exception and to allow him to keep it, and this is kind of the third strike, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we don't want to euthanize it either, but it's not good.
Right. In that case, we'll just go ahead and follow our ordinance.
Do we need a vote? Yeah.
Nope, it's just.
I think that's what the ordinance says.
Yeah.
It's information.
I suspect that one or possibly several of you may be contacted by this gentleman. We just want to make you aware so that you know what we were doing.
Sure. Understood. Anything else, Doug?
I don't think so.
Anybody have anything for Doug? Thanks, sir. All right, roundup program discussion. Dave, let's turn that over to you real quick.
Well, it looks like it's a no-go for now. We were looking at that roundup program for utilities, and when Lance kind of looked into it, RSM in Missouri doesn't allow that. They do allow it, but it would come in as general funds, and it would be part of the municipal funds at that point. We can't give that away. So the only thing that we could possibly do would be to give it to a ministerial alliance or an organization like that. But once we do that, we lose control. It can be used for whatever they want to use it for. So I'm still looking into it.
Okay, so we'll just table it until further research is done, but thank you for your efforts on it, and it's definitely a good idea. Okay, anybody want to add anything to that?
Mr. Humphrey, if you'll talk to me after the meeting, I may have some ideas that might be of assistance.
Very good. A couple mayor appointments real quick. We have 2 vacancies I would like to fulfill, one of which is on our Park and Recreational Board. Gentleman that actually lives in my neighborhood and is relatively new to the area, but has been around for a few years. His name is Steve Brown. He's a super nice guy. Really interested in being active in our community. They love being here. They think Cuba is such a really unique place. He's not here this evening, but I'm sure he'll be happy to come to the next meeting if he's available. Just introduce himself to the council. But I think he'll be an asset to the park board. So I would like to recommend for appointment Mr. Steve Brown to the park board.
I make a motion.
Motion by Honey, second by Grady. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for that. And again, we'll get him here to introduce himself. Second appointment would be for the Tourism Committee. I think you all recognize the name, Don Fuchs, Dr. Fuchs, who served on the board before. Going through the term limits as well as the time between before he can be put back on. He's met all that criteria, so I'd like to reappoint Dr. Fuchs to the Tourism Committee. He will be assuming Dennis Meiser's role until that term expires. Motion by Holt, second by Grady. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Council. And moving on to bill number 2032, so motion for the first, yes sir.
Let's get the ordinances.
Oh, okay, you gonna read them?
That's gonna be helpful.
Yeah, we're gonna not do that whole rigmarole this time either, unless I mess it up.
Motion.
Motion for the first reading, bill number 2032.
By caption only.
By caption only. Motion by Black, second by Grady. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Cuba, Missouri, on behalf of the said city, to enter into an agreement with Hanson Professional Services Incorporated to provide consulting services to accomplish a construction project at the Cuba Municipal Airport.
For the first reading, bill number 2032 by caption only, motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion by Grady, second by Black. Poll the council, please.
Copeland,
Yes.
Black,
Yes.
Honey,
Yes.
Grady,
Yes.
Holt.
Yes.
Okay, first reading, bill number 2032 moves forward with a vote 5-0. Motion for the second reading, bill number 2032.
Motion.
Motion by Black, second by Grady. All in favor
By
say
caption
aye.
only.
By caption only. That's new. You always sprung that on me last.
Sorry.
Motion by Black, second by Grady, for the second reading of bill number 2032 by caption only. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Second reading by caption only. No, I can look at you.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Cuba, Missouri, on behalf of said city, to enter into an agreement with Hanson Professional Services Incorporated to provide consulting services to accomplish a construction project at the Cuba Municipal Airport.
For the second reading of bill number 2032 by caption only, motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion by Holt, second by Black. Poll council, please.
Holt.
Yes.
Grady.
Yes.
Honey.
Yes.
Black.
Yes.
Copeland.
Okay, second reading of bill number 2032 moves forward with a vote 5-0. That is now special ordinance 840. 840. All right, old unfinished new business. Only thing I have, council's reminder, next Wednesday, the 10th at 5 p.m. we'll have a discussion on our employee insurance renewal. We need to get that done here in the next immediate couple of weeks. So we'll have a meeting on that to choose a plan and get that passed and voted on. So that's really all I have in between now and next time. Kevin.
Are we, is the city gonna put a truck in this Christmas parade or not?
I mean, I'm sure we could probably work that out, yeah.
I just wondered, you know.
Might as
I know
well.
the citizens really like them in the parade.
Greg, do you want to get a PW truck in the parade?
We can if you
More
want to.
welcome to. City Hall girls, if you guys want to put something in, coordinate that, that'd be great. I don't certainly have any problem with it. So, anything from the council or anything from us, Lenny, let us know. Absolutely. Would love to see the city represented in the group.
Yeah. I agree.
I'll probably be in it. Was last year? No, the real one's gonna be here. Well, we'll see. Anything else, guys? Sam? Dave?
No. Mayor, before you
Yes, sir.
finish, we'll have, they're starting this week, the county is taking applications for their $4 million.
Yes.
What is that, ARPA money?
Yes, sir.
I understand some smaller municipalities in the county are gonna apply, just to put that bucket in here. Their, sewer projects are one of the things they're highlighting, so, I mean, it's, you got till the end of the month to apply.
Yes, sir.
I would consider it.
So there's a luncheon tomorrow.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the chamber.
For more info, Sean, I'm assuming you're gonna be there. Alderman Black, are you gonna be able to attend to that? Okay.
And then be aware that Cuba High School is doing their Veterans Day program again.
Okay.
So some of you might want to go.
Yeah, for
It's on
sure.
Veterans Day at 11 o'clock. So.
on Veterans Day lunch, like I see 11th, next Thursday.
Yeah, they're gonna do
Something
lunch
like that.
for whoever wants lunch.
Oh, they are doing that?
It's gonna be back home.
They are doing that?
Yeah, they're gonna go right back, pretty much back to normal what they were doing.
Very good. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that. Do you have items for executive this evening, sir?
No.
Okay. I wasn't sure. We put it on there.
Yeah.
I'm sure any of that came to fruition yet. So we will skip executive session.
Oh,
Motion to adjourn by Randy.
Second.
Second by Mike. All